I'd like to start the LDC meeting, and I'm going to ask Jasmine to take a roll call.
Tim Jean,
Here.
Mark Doyle,
Yeah.
Kathy Bauer,
Here.
Amy Bondaderi,
Here.
Jamie Picone,
Here.
Don Sagliano,
Here.
Al Torjani.
Here.
Great. I would like to ask anybody, the first thing is a conflict of interest disclosure. The first one I will state, Tim Dean has a conflict with the discussion about the Nuvance issue. I'm chair of the board of the Vassar Board of Directors, Vassar Hospital, and I also serve on the Nuvance Captive Insurance Company Board of Directors. So I will be recusing myself at the point of that discussion and turning that over to Mark Doyle. Does anybody else have a conflict they would like to talk about?
Yes, Al Turgiani with Key Construction. We've been doing work up there at Nuvance, and we also have a conflict. I also do.
Okay, so Sarah, we will be able to have a quorum at that point.
Yes. Yes.
If Don has to leave, do we still have a quorum?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's move on. Proof of meeting notice. Sarah?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes. The meeting notice was published on October 8th.
Great. All right. Any bills in communication?
No.
Okay. Do you want to talk about, I'm sorry, we have minutes from the last meeting. Do we need to get those approved?
No. So with the meetings from
yes.
the last meeting of the LDC occurred on Friday, October 2nd.
Yeah.
And so because of the time, we don't have minutes for the board to approve.
Yes. Okay. So let's move to the report of the treasurer.
Okay, looking at the balance sheet, we currently have 2.5 million in cash. You'll see an accounts receivable of 153,000. The majority of that is due from the IDA. I'll make a transfer when we need it. Accounts payable is at 40,000. Majority of that is the September 30th payroll. Looking at the P&L, nothing out of line at this point. I do want to bring your attention to one thing under expenses. Number 6275, equipment. You'll see that you budgeted 40,000 for that, and we're only at 5,600. That budget was mostly for our expansion, and because of our capitalization policy, 22,000 of that is listed under assets. So we have spent more than half of that money. It's just not under an expense. It's been put into our asset category. Other than that, I have nothing to report. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay. We will, of course, be moving to the budget report, but before that, if there's no questions, could I get a motion to approve the financial report as presented?
This is Kathy Bauer. I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Kathy, okay, Kathy motioned, Al seconded. Jasmine, will you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, Tim Dean,
In favor?
Mark Doyle,
In favor.
Kathy Bauer,
In favor.
Amy Bondaderi,
In favor.
Jamie Picone,
In favor.
Al sorry, Don Sagliano,
In favor.
Al Torjani.
In favor.
Thank you. And I forgot to mention in the introductions, welcome Amy to the LDC board as well as the IDA board. Okay. So we have that. So why don't we move to the budget? And Kathy, would you like to take over that discussion?
Yes, thank you, Tim. So for the 2020 year-end estimates for administrative fees, we're looking at closing around $656,750. As Sarah had mentioned, that's based on successful closing of two projects, the Vassar College projects, which already closed, and the Bard College project. Application fees are $500 is, again, estimated from Vassar and Bard College. One of the biggest revenue declines that we approved back a couple months ago is from Dutchess County when we agreed to relinquish the Dutchess County contract, and due to the COVID pandemic, we forfeited the $451,500, and we're going to use our reserve budgets to cover that expense. The $150,000, as Marilyn just mentioned, is due from the IDA. And the private sector has decreased tremendously. We decided not to have our in-person, or could not have our in-person Business Excellence Awards event this year. It's being transformed into a video showcase, a virtual show, and so that you will see a significant decline in revenue from $113,000 in 2019. We're estimating getting about $15,000 in sponsorships this year, and no in-kind donations. The Workforce Investment Board contract is pretty stable. About $27,000 for year end, and right now we're estimating interest income from our reserves at $37,000 for the year. As far as expenditures, we have our normal auditing expenditures of $12,000 from our accountant. The board expenditures down to $500. The computers is around $12,000. Dues and subscriptions. We did not purchase the business intelligence program that we had talked about earlier in the year, but this does include the cloud-based loan programming management tool for what we approved a few months back. So that should come in at about $30,000. Equipment, we've already talked about that. And then the events expense, again, because we're not having our Business Excellence Award program in person, we're doing the video expenses, so that's substantially reduced from $50,000 down to $15,000 for year end. Let's see, marketing, Sarah went over that, what that expenditure is. And payroll, Payrolls where we anticipated the budget to be, $420,000. Payroll tax, $38,000. Our payroll fringe benefits is a little bit lower than anticipated because some of the employees are not taking full advantage of the benefits with us. Could be from spouses or whatever, they're getting the benefits that way. So there's a little bit of a cost savings to us because of that. And then let's see. Professional service contracts, they're listed below. It's what we anticipated them being. There's no surprises really there. And travel and trade shows, of course, because of the pandemic, there's only been one trade show attended, and travel has been reduced so that we're having some cost savings from that figure. For the 2021 budget, administrative fees and application fees are projected based on 3 closed projects. Then the county will not approve any of their budgets until the year end, but we're anticipating getting the $338,000. The IDA amount remains constant, and then depending on what happens next year with COVID, we put in a moderate number as far as whether or not the Business Excellence Award program will take place. And then we significantly reduced interest income from our reserves, from our CDs, down to $10,000, anticipating that interest rates will not increase for next year. Let's see, again, the corresponding events expense, line number 16, we did a moderate number of $25,000, depending on whether or not we're going to have that in-person event. Payroll, we anticipate remaining constant. Our professional service contracts, slightly reduced. And trade shows, again, moderate number depending on whether or not there will be in-person events for 2021. And then as far as our 5-year projection for
I just-
Paris. Oh,
I'm sorry.
okay, go ahead. Anybody have any questions? Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick comment. There
Yeah.
is in our 2021 budget, there's a $135,000 LDC loan reserve fund item. And that is, just to remind everybody and refresh everybody's memory, we have this loan fund that is available to businesses, with certain criteria for, as a result of COVID. We have a loan fund that's available, and one of the concerns that we had was that some people may not be able to pay back the loans that they take from us. So we put in the budget a $135,000 reserve for that. However, as of this moment, we have not loaned out any money. So that's a placeholder that we have in there, but that item is at this point unlikely to be realized as an expense. So that 135,000 is a significant amount of the change in the budget, from year to year. I just wanted to point that out to people.
Thank you, Tim. Does anybody else from the committee have any comments that I might have overlooked, or anybody have any questions?
No, Kathy, I think you did an excellent presentation.
Thank you. And then for going forward to the 5-year projection, the numbers pretty much remain fairly consistent based on 3 projects closing each year. The $150,000 from the IDA, and right now for the service contracts that we normally get from Dutchess County, and the reduced interest income from the investments that we have. And let's see, expenses, again, fairly consistent, and slight increases with salary, which usually happens with any type of business going forward, with the corresponding employee benefits, and the professional service contracts remaining pretty stable.
And just a comment or a question, it's my understanding that under the professional contracts, the DCI is our biggest one, and
Yes.
that is under a multi-year contract. Is that correct, Sarah?
Correct. It's a 3-year contract.
Okay. And just another, couple of comments. So within the past 3 years, between the IDA and the LDC, we have really absorbed some pretty significant, I'm going to say, out of our budget expenses as our way of assisting the county in getting through these difficult times. And Sarah, I'm just going to ask you to very quickly refresh everybody's memory on the IBM issue, which was reflected in our 5-year IDA budget as a pretty big impact to our bottom line a couple of years ago. And then just talk again about the loan fund that we agreed to set up, as well as the foregoing of our approved amount from the county. So would you just touch on those real quick?
So sure. So yeah, so back in 2018, we were working with both the county and IBM. IBM's sales tax pilot was had expired, and so and they did not come back. IBM did not come back in time under the old to qualify under the old regulations. So they'd be subject to new regulations. So we were working with the county on where they would have the least sales tax impact. And through that was an agreement where we would increase our professional service contract with tourism, and then the county would reduce their contribution to tourism over the course, over the contract period. What had happened was IBM decided that they weren't going to execute the agreement, but we were committed, as well as the county, to meeting tourism's budget. So we ended up on the IDA going into our loan fund about $1 million into our loan fund to assist the county so that tourism could be made whole. On the LDC side, this year for COVID, the board approved that we forego our county contract to assist the county as they, were trying to, if they were experiencing lower sales tax income and other additional spending as a result of the pandemic. And then also on the request of the county, we also opened a loan fund for the small businesses that were affected by COVID. And to that, we have dedicated $500,000 of our funds to that program. So as a result, again, another $1 million on the LDC side has been committed to COVID-related funds on the request of the county.
Thank you. So the loan fund will only be spent if we receive applications and distribute all of the money. As I mentioned, as of today, we have not distributed any money, but it is still available to be applied for.
Yes. And then real quick, Tim, is the county did ask us to submit an austerity budget, which we have, and that, as Kathy said, is about $338,000. We won't have confirmation on that until the budget is approved in December, but that is the amount that we have requested.
Thank you. And that's opposed to what was prior to the austerity budget? What was the number?
That was a $450,000.
Okay. All right. Kathy, I'm sorry to have interrupted you for so long.
No, that's okay. I think we are done if everyone doesn't have any more comments or questions.
Might I just say, Mark Doyle here, how are you going to present the alternative of the austerity budget? Will the 451 be in the, will we basically put in 2 applications to the county?
So the austerity budget they requested us to submit was, we were budgeted earlier this year. Our request was 450. And then they came back to us and said, well, if we can't do the 450, what would be the austerity budget? And that was the 338.
All right, so they're aware of the 450.
Sarah, how much of our cost in the budget this year is for the loan program, whether any of that is loaned out or not? What is our fixed cost of the loan fund?
So we haven't gotten all the bills from community capital and any council fees, but I estimate that to be about $7,000.
And will that be ongoing each year?
So no, so that will just be a one-time cost. That is the setup fee basically for the loan fund. The only ongoing cost would be if we were to get loans, the loan management program.
Okay, and that's how much?
So that is about, I'd estimate about $2,500 a year.
Okay. And the one software program or tool that you did not choose to exercise due to budget concerns, how much is that and what is it?
So it's about $15,000 a year. It is a program to help us identify businesses across basically around the world that may be looking to, it's a data analytics program that may be looking to expand or relocate, and they do this based on this proprietary formula that they have. And so it'll allow us to track those businesses as well as give us outreach information so that we can contact them directly.
So my question to you and a discussion for the board, and Don, if you have to leave, I understand. Can we afford not to have that program during this difficult time? Is this when we should be making a tough budgetary decision to potentially increase our projected deficit? We have a fund balance, and is this a program that we should have during this tough time to be working ahead of the recovery to, keep in touch with these types of businesses?
So I would say, yes, it is a program that is important. I think my thought is, if there are positive changes to the budget, that this would be a program that I would recommend that we reinstate. The alternative is if we are unable to travel because of travel restrictions, we did budget a healthy trade show and travel and meeting budget, or I would say not healthy, but reasonable. And if we're impacted, that we could probably reallocate some of that and put that into the data analytics program, because that would give us a program where we can that gives us targeted information for potential leads.
Might I suggest that we consider transferring some of that money from the travel budget and putting it into this thing that we know that we can utilize, and then revisit the travel as COVID gets less, and as we may have an opportunity to travel, and hopefully by that time we'll have some other positive news in regards to other revenue sources. I welcome other board members' thoughts about that. I'm just thinking that I would hate to stop moving forward on things that are going to generate long-term prospects for our county. The IDA, one of our jobs is in ways to prime the pump, and I hate to retreat into our shell at this time when we really do need to focus on the long term. And we do have, I don't mean to negate the fact that we project deficits, but again, we have a fund balance, and things will improve in the long term, I think. So I'm just questioning whether we should not move forward with that program.
I have a question, Mark Doyle.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to drop off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks. So, Sarah, the software, who is that supported by? Is it somebody local, or what kind of connection?
It's a national lead generation program. They came out with a product a few years ago where it is a subscription-based, user-friendly service where they use their private proprietary formula to target potential businesses. They do still have their full service where they will make the introduction, but they give us enough information with this proprietary program where we can make kind of like a soft introduction. The types of information that they use in their formula are like news releases of, like, let's say a new CEO. They find that companies that have new CEOs are often considering relocations or expansions. They provide social media channels, things like that, so we can kind of follow these businesses and see where their interests may lie and if that would make a possible good fit for us. So they've had good success with other EDOs that I've talked to that have this program in-house, have actually had good success in getting increased activity and relocations to their community. And we can, the nice thing about this is that we can also target industries we don't have, that we want to seek to attract.
So it's a subscription, or just how much of that is a one-time cost?
So it is just a pure subscription. So included in their subscription cost is your setup cost. So yearly, with all the elements that we would want in it, it comes out to about $15,000. They base it basically on your population size.
Who specifically at the LDC would be utilizing this program?
So this would be Chris, who would be using this. He's our director of business attraction. this would be the program that he would use to target potential leads.
So Sarah, I'm just going to throw something out here. If we were to, instead of having a $15,000 budget item for travel and meetings, actually between trade show and travel and meeting, we have 25,000 right now.
Yeah.
We only spent 4,000 in the past year. If we were to shift around and move 15,000 of that 25,000 and leave 10 right now in the between the trade show and travel and meeting, you know, would that be okay right now? And then revisit the travel and trade show mid-year when we see, you know, if things are opening up, and also again where we are, you know, on our budget otherwise.
So yeah, so I mean, I'm comfortable with that. I can do that, and so it won't change our bottom line, but we're just shifting the cost around to account for that.
Again, I'm looking for the thoughts and opinions of other board members. You know, what do other people think about that?
Tim, this is Kathy. I think that's a good idea. I mean, we should continue to perform business outreaches and look to attract new businesses into the county. And if we can't do that in person, then we should definitely try doing it somewhere with software and doing it virtually.
Okay. Jamie, Mark, Amy, any other comments?
I would agree with that. This is Amy.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we approve the budget and the 5-year budget with the revision that we discussed, which is reducing the line items totaling 25,000 for trade show, travel, and meetings by $15,000, and transferring that $15,000 to the, I believe it's the dues and subscriptions line. Is that correct, Sarah?
Correct.
So it will have a net impact, no net impact on the proposed budget. It just realign where some of the expenses are. But I would make a motion that we accept the budget as proposed with those modifications. If I could get a second on that?
No,
Jamie,
you need a
propose a
motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I made the motion. Can I
Yeah,
make
some,
the motion?
Okay. So
Am I allowed to make a motion? Don or Liz,
Sorry, what's the question?
can I make the motion, or do I need somebody
Yeah,
else to
you
make
can
it?
Make the motion.
Okay, so Tim Dean has made the motion. Could I get a second?
Jamie Pacone will second.
Thank you, Jamie. Any other discussion? Okay, Jasmine, could you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, Tim Dean,
In favor?
Mark Doyle,
in favor.
Kathy Bauer,
In favor.
Amy Bondieri,
Favor?
Jamie Pacone,
In favor.
Al Torjani.
Al has left the meeting. He had another appointment.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. So we're all set with that. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So now that takes us in the agenda, excuse me, to unfinished business, which is Nuvance. And this is where I have a conflict. Sarah, I want to make sure, do you still have a quorum?
Yes. So we
Okay.
have Mark, Jamie, Amy, and Kathy still on the line.
Okay. So at this point, I am going to recuse myself for the rest of the meeting. I will let Mark handle the Nuvance issue, and I don't believe there's any new business. And so at that point, Mark will be able to adjourn the meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you all for attending, and I'll turn it over to Mark.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Bye now.
All right. So do we have anybody from Nuvance on the?
Yes.
with us?
So today we have David Cates, Karen Darcy, and I don't know if Steve is on the.
We've had a conflict, so I'll cover an update if that's okay.
Okay, that's more than okay. So
Great. Oh, Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to say good morning and thank you to this committee for, allowing us an update on the audit for Nuvance Health. Steve Rosenberg was here and presented about a month ago. We were talking about, how the process was going. The update that we have is that, it's still ongoing, but we're in the final stages. We, as you remember, had to go back and restate for an AR issue that was found, an error in the prior years for HealthQuest. We went back and we have restated both 2017 and 2018 for that error. Those audits are done and final. They're just waiting for final approval from our audit committee meeting, which is scheduled for October 30th. And we anticipate that they will approve those audits and that we will have them final and issued. For the 2019 audit, we have completed all the audit work and prepared the financials. We're now in the final stages with our auditors, EY, just going back and forth on the presentation of the financials and the footnotes and the editing for that. And it's going through their internal review. And we are on track and ready to prepare and have a final draft for our audit committee meeting on October 30th. And we expect that those audits will be final approved at that time, and that we will be able to within hopefully a day or two of that meeting, finalize and do the administrative work that needs to be done just to finalize those audits, to then have them issued and presented publicly. I don't know if there's any questions from the committee. So what we are here today, I apologize, we are here to ask, you have graciously signed an extension letter in the past, and we're here today to ask for a final extension letter through the early parts of November, just so that we can finalize our audit and get it published.
May I ask, just referring back to the most recent meeting and extension, where we set a date of September 30th, and you were going to have an audit committee meeting, if my memory serves me correct, on the 25th of September. Could you fill in what occurred at that point and why we are revisiting the same issue?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, we realized very late that the error that we had found for the restatement covered more than just 2018, and we went back and also restated 2017. So that was a very last minute change that we had to work through, which took a little bit more time than expected. We also realized in our 2019 audit, we have been working around the clock to get it done. However, it was taking a little bit more time than we had originally anticipated. There's actually 3 audits that we're doing for 2019. We have a standalone audit for Sharon Hospital, which is located in Connecticut. It requires a 12-month audit for state purposes. So we're covering that. HealthQuest has a 9-month audit being prepared, and Nuvance Health, being that it was created on April 1st of 2019, is being audited and presented for a 6-month period. So when we're going through the audit steps and we're preparing and compiling the financials, there's a lot of different periods that needs to be carved out and presented accurately. And we realized that it's just taking a little bit more time than we had originally anticipated, just to go through and make sure that we're very accurate, and you know, we're doing that and presenting it you know, appropriately with our auditors, and that has just caused a slight delay.
Okay, I think hopefully I'm speaking accurately for the rest of the committee, but that the rest of the board, that, you know, whilst we're confident that you're doing the very best you can, and that this is a complicated issue, and that, you know, there's really no fear of default or any other form of financial issue, we're writing letters of extension to you, and I'm sure it's the rest of the board's preference to do that as few times as possible. So I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as the final date for this extension.
Yes, we are clearly far enough along. All the audit work, as I mentioned, has been completed by our auditors, and we are now just in the final stages of editing the actual footnotes, making sure that everything is presented accurately in the financials, and we're just going through the final internal reviews with our auditors. So we are definitely on track for our own internal audit committee meeting on October 30th, where we expect to present and have it final approved.
Okay. Does anybody else have a comment or? Sarah?
Yeah, I just, I think that there was a filing done by Nuvance that covered this just recently. With you filed something with Emma, the electronic municipal market access system, indicating so you've been making the proper disclosures to the public as well, and in that you've indicated that the overstatement, instead of being 75 million, or your accounts receivable is 65 million. So we've actually found something more that somehow lowers the amount of the error. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. We have, just like you pointed out, we have been very diligent with making public notices on Emma to let our bondholders and the public know where we are at all times with this audit and the delay. Yes, we had originally thought, per our analysis, that the overstatement was $75 million for the prior years. But, you know, we have now gone through the final audits of those restated periods, and that amount now is a total of $65 million. We had originally also thought that was primarily 2018. However, we very last minute in September realized that it should be a restatement of both 2017 and 2018. It's still the same total amount of 65 million. It's just more accurately presented between the two prior years.
Great. And the other thing is that as far as the LDC is concerned, I mean, we usually are not involved in this, and we're involved solely because of language that was also required by the state of Connecticut. And so there was language put into the documents. We are not part of the requirement. We have no requirement for, as a board, to ensure that there is disclosure. They're taking care of the disclosure on their own, but it's a default provision if they hadn't provided this by the end of February 2020, and they've been making the disclosures to the public that they're required to, and everything required under the continuing disclosure agreement. And the board would have to declare a default saying that they're not working diligently to try to resolve this issue. And by all appearances, and the board would have to prove that. By all appearances, it seems that they are working diligently towards this. I would also finally suggest that the date for the letter asks for an extension until November 6th. You might want to move that out to the next board meeting to address your concern, Mark, so that by the next board meeting, if you have it done, you don't have to appear. And if it happens to go beyond the 6th, we don't have to deal with that interim period.
I do believe that we are open to that. We're just very grateful if the board can allow us the extension letter, which, like you pointed out, you know, it truly helps our auditors because it's a statement from the board, just kind of letting the auditors know that there has not been any you know, declaration of, you know, a default.
And so, Sarah, when is our next board meeting?
It is scheduled for Thursday, November 12th.
Okay. So I would suggest that the motion, if the board wants to consider it, just amend the proposed letter, or authorizing her to sign that letter, extending it to November 12th.
I would make that motion, and you know, I'm sure that will be, it sounds like that will be adequate for all the issues to be resolved.
I'll second that motion.
Would you like to take a roll call, Jasmine?
Yes. Kathy Bauer,
In favor?
Mark Doyle,
In favor.
Amy Bondieri,
In favor.
Jamie Picone.
In favor.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes. So good luck then with completing that work, and hopefully we can continue on with Nuvance fully intact and operating to all of our benefits.
Great. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Sarah, do we have any other items to discuss?
So no, that concludes the business for the board meeting.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I'd like to adjourn the meeting, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.